welcome to Travels with Jack. I'm your host, Jack Barron. And as always, if you would like to be a guest on our show and share with us a recent trip, vacation, day trip, we would love to have you as a guest. Just contact us here at Access Framingham Television and let us know you'd like to be a guest. Today, I am very fortunate to have as our guest Amy Dane, who comes into us from Longmeadow, Massachusetts. She made it through that tornado-stricken corridor along the Mass Pike to join us here in Framingham. Amy is a graduate of Smith College, and she traveled a lot every summer, and she has continued with her love of travel. And she then, after Smith, became an art history major at Williams College, and then went to work for the Mount Holyoke Art Museum as an educator and coordinator, and spent a lot of time getting her visitors excited about art and travel. And that then led her into opening up Great Dane Travel, which is her small personal type travel agency. I'll call it a boutique agency in Longmeadow, Mass. She is going to share with us today a trip she made to the continent of Antarctica. I'm hoping to ask her a few questions about the 1961 treaty that kind of set up the structure for Antarctica. And she's going to share with us some photos, which our producer Bill will hopefully stream across the television for you to see. And I'm going to say to Amy, what's that? Tell me about that. Tell me about that. So, Amy, welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for making your way to us. I know it was a little bit of a long trip today, but we appreciate it. Can you start by telling me how you got to Antarctica?
Totally fluky. I was all set to go to West Africa. Oh. I was lined up with my usual travel buddy to go to Benin, Togo, and Ghana. And this was for January of 2009. So I was all set with that, and I was at Cape Cod in the summer, and my mother's friend said she had literature around that she was going to Antarctica, and my eyes popped open. I said, when are you going? And it was right about the time that I had already planned to go to West Africa. Well, sure enough, that particular trip didn't have enough participants. The trip was canceled 6 weeks before departure.
Oh, that's great.
I took my money, called my friend immediately, and said, I'm coming with you. And she said, well, I'm going with a group out of Brockton. And this woman has a group, and I'm not sure if she has room for you or if there's any room on the boat or anything, but you're more than welcome, because my usual travel companion in no way, shape, or form was going to go to Antarctica. So I said, okay. So I called Judy Karp, who has her own little Judy group, and she was more than welcoming to me. But I booked through the boat directly, and I coordinated with Judy to match their flights, and I took care of my own air and everything, and she was so welcoming to me to have me join her group, and then at the very end have a day or two in Buenos Aires on the way home.
You know, you mentioned Buenos Aires. Tell me how you, did you go through Buenos Aires? Did you have to fly to Argentina? What was kind of the flight protocol?
How it started was that we started in Boston, and we were going to leave from Miami. So I took that opportunity to spend a week in Florida first with my parents. Why not? Get some warm weather in before the cold weather comes.
You hear that, Ma?
Yes. So after the week in Florida, Pat and I joined up, and we flew from Miami to Buenos Aires. I think it was an overnight flight. It's Buenos Aires, excuse me, because I don't speak Spanish. And then immediately we flew another 3.5 hours.
So you only used Buenos Aires as a connection?
That was at the end.
Okay.
No, that was at the end. We went to Ushuaia.
All right.
Ushuaia is the capital city of Tierra del Fuego, the southernmost province in Argentina. And it's called again, I don't speak Spanish, but I believe the fin del mundo, the end of the world.
Okay.
The tip of South America. And this is where the cruise ships, or ships I should say, leave to head off for Antarctica.
Okay. And did you get to spend any time in the tip of Argentina.
Yes, we actually had one full day.
And tell me, how did you have those fabulous
It's the cutest
Argentinian
little
steaks?
town. Oh, well, I had those before. I've been to Argentina, so
Okay.
this was a fun day. It's a cute little town, almost built up a hill. And what I remember so much was that the weather was cold, yet there were beautiful flowers in pots all over the street, which was so unusual, I thought, for cold weather. And it's a hopping little town. This is where everybody from Patagonia comes to hike, and you can buy anything sporty that you might need. Sports equipment, things to wear. They'll sell all of the souvenirs that you could possibly want for Patagonia and Antarctica. You can take boat trips to look at wildlife. You can take glacier rides. You can do anything from Ushuaia. And then there is, of course, the segment of people that are going on to Antarctica.
Okay, so you're there, and the boat is waiting for you. Tell us a little bit about the boat. Hopefully, we'll see a picture. And
Yes.
you folks are watching.
Here you have the end of the world.
Okay,
Ushuaia. Ushuaia.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Actually, what I did with my friend was we went to the national park down there, which was established in 1960. There's the town. It's just so cute. And I thought fairly Dutch looking, that sort of
Yeah.
architecture
And
looked
is that a
Dutch to
hotel,
me.
or?
I think it was. And this sunken thing was just in the
I was
harbor,
gonna
and it
say,
looked
that's
neat.
not
Don't
your
ask me a
boat.
thing about it. And here
That's
I
not-
made a friend.
Amy's not going on that
Yes,
boat.
you didn't want to go on that boat. And this is where we went for the day, Tierra del Fuego National Park, which is 63,000 acres of mountain forest and sea. It's
Wow.
just gorgeous.
This looks like Bar Harbor, Maine.
It's beautiful.
We had guests last week from Bar Harbor, and I'm telling you, it looks the same.
It was beautiful there. They have all kinds of mosses and lichens, all kinds of interesting plant life, and it was very beautiful scenery, as you can see from this.
It is. It looks lovely.
was a
now,
nice
what
day.
was the temperature while you were down there?
Down there, I'd say you were wearing a ski jacket. You were
Okay.
wearing a ski jacket.
So you'd say 45?
I'm not
40?
good with numbers, but sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was chilly.
But being a New Englander, you were comfortable?
Absolutely.
You didn't get there and say,
No.
I should have stayed with Ma in Miami?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good.
I did spring for the special expedition jacket that our company was selling, figuring why not, just in case I need it. It might be really, really cold, and I got a gorgeous bright yellow jacket that I have really enjoyed on a very cold winter day.
Plus, you figured if you got lost somewhere,
Yes, I
they'd
could be
see you.
seen, but I must say this was quite a hefty jacket. A lot of times I didn't wear it, and it's quite something.
All right, so you get on the boat. Tell me a little bit about the boat. How many people would you say?
The boat took 110 people, and I must
So
say...
a small boat, basically.
Yes, it also had about 70 and expert staff and crew.
Really?
I don't think it was full for passengers, because here's what happened. I wanted to save money because it's an expensive trip, so I figured I would book a triple room.
Okay.
And the luggage was put into the room, and I started unpacking a teeny tiny room very carefully so I wouldn't hog up too much closet space, drawer space.
Yep.
And it finally dawned on me that my luggage was the only luggage in the room.
Okay.
I ended up with my own room, which probably saved a good $1,000 plus. I ended up with a single room. So I had a room with 2 beds all to myself. And if there are any pictures of my room, it gets hysterical because I took a picture of it when it was very clean and neat and tidy. And then after we started making our Zodiac landings, where the second bed became a dumping ground for piles of clothes of all kinds. It just got really hysterical after a fashion.
Now, this boat, so in terms of cruise ships, it would be considered small.
It's not a cruise ship, Jack. It's
Oh.
an expedition ship.
All right,
It's an
educate me,
expedition
Amy.
ship.
I'm
a
ready.
Cruise
You mean
ship
no
is
shuffleboard? and-
no shuffleboard. This
no
is
milkshakes?
no. This is serious business here. This is
Anchors away. Here we
yes, anchors away, and here we are leaving Ushuaia, looking back. And you can see how pretty everything is. It's just a beautiful town, and the boat, looking down on the boat, as we're leaving. Oh, this was just great. We had to put on our life jackets. This is the first thing you do. You have to have a drill. And I'm holding up my little flashlight thinking, oh, I hope we don't have to use these things. And you store those underneath your bed. And here is our ship, the Lubov Orlova.
Now,
And
what is that named after?
Lubov, well, this was
Sounds
a
Russian.
Russian actress.
Oh, it was Russian.
The Lubov Orlova was a Russian actress. In fact, there's my nice clean room so far, okay? And the dining room. She was Stalin's favorite actress.
Oh.
And, let's talk about those motion sickness pills. That's Dr. Cassandra. You must have those. And she was something, really something. And these, of course, are the lifeboats that we hoped we'd never have to use.
Oh, yes.
Didn't want to have to use those. And I just loved this man sitting there just in solitude. It's a lovely shot. And here we were having an outdoor barbecue toward the end of our 10-day adventure. And that's a beautiful scene, I think.
Now, the boat was, in fact, a Russian boat?
Actually, it's registered in Malta. The crew is Russian.
Oh, they were Russian.
They were
Okay.
Russian. And in fact, they had one evening, they dressed up in costumes, sang Russian music, dance, and
that
everything.
must have been interesting. And,
But by the way, Lubov is love, so we were on the love boat. Although I would hardly call it a terribly romantic experience.
let me ask you a tough question.
Yeah.
Russian cuisine or a little bit of...
Only the one night that they did.
Oh, really? Okay.
Right. It was fairly basic food, but so much food. Oh, my. I've never eaten so much in my life.
So you weren't eating herring?
No.
And...
No. And if you wanted ice cream, you could ask for it, and if you wanted more, they'd bring you more.
Oh, great.
And I never ate so much in my life.
Oh, really? All right. Very, well, that's good to hear because
But we should talk about
I hear
the motion
Russian
sickness.
cruise ships, and I immediately picture myself with eating herring and...
I wouldn't last a minute.
All right, so the boat takes off, and your first stop is what? Zodiac Landing?
Well, these typically on a trip like this, you will make an average of 7 landings. We were so fortunate with our weather that we had 9 landings.
Oh, great.
And you're in these little, they look like inflatable rubber rafts, but they're extremely sturdy. They seat about 10 passengers. There's Gary. We loved Gary.
Now, behind me, behind Gary, I should say,
Quite
these
the
are
ice,
what,
isn't
glaciers?
it? These are glaciers,
Wow.
icebergs. It's magnificent. You've never seen ice like this in your life.
It does. It looks
Some of them
beautiful.
look like, I believe that's a National Geographic ship, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. This is cruising. 2 of the Zodiac experiences were cruising, not landing, and this is a cruise through Cape Bernard. The scenery is unbelievable.
It does. It looks breathtaking.
But you can see what it's like to get out of these boats, and here we are at the end of a Zodiac. This is how you go back up. Oh, cleaning your feet after
Okay.
having landed. Well, there's a big issue because penguin guano is everywhere on these islands, and
Okay.
it stinks. We would call it eau de guano.
Okay.
Now, what happens when you get back is you come in, they issue you Wellingtons, the rubber boots.
All right.
And you keep those with you for the entire experience. And the funny part is when I talked about the voyage down through the Drake Passage, the ship was going through the Drake, and it went from rocking, which was fine with me, to pitching, which was not. And I'm trying on my boots to get the right size, and all of a sudden I turned green, fell into my chair, and couldn't move.
Really?
And one of the experts helped me and started shoving boots on and off my feet until he decided he found a pair that fit me. Then he had to carry me back to my room, and that was the end of me for the rest of the afternoon. And the doc does hand out some lovely, what I call miracle pills, and boy, were they great. Phenergan, fabulous.
So you're saying the ship was a little bit
Oh,
rocky.
the Drake Passage is no picnic, but we were lucky. We were lucky.
Now, do they tell you all the time that this Drake Passage, you went in the winter, you went our winter,
That's when you
which
go.
was a comfortable time of the year
Right.
there.
The Drake is stormy. It's stormy.
Okay, so
But we had a fairly easy passage. We
so
really
those
did.
viewers who are watching us, you're going to leave in the winter from here.
Yep.
And it's still going to be cool when you're down there, 35,
Oh, yes.
40 degrees,
Well, in Antarctica, even colder.
even colder.
Yeah.
And it could end up being a little bit rocky.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
We want to be up front. We want to be up front with the viewers.
It's really interesting what they do. In the dining room, when you're going through the Drake Passage, they wet the tablecloths so your dishes don't slide. And your centerpiece becomes a box in the middle with slats so you can put your water glasses in it.
Oh, really? Okay.
They're prepared. And the boat is rocking. And you can't imagine how the staff go about their business and do their chores when you can barely walk. You pick a strategic point to walk to and grab, and watching your fellow passengers on the boat.
I Love Lucy show.
It's worse than it's exactly that. You're holding something, you're trying to balance yourself this way. It's quite something. And then, of course, once you get down there, you wonder what it's going to be like when you have to go through it and go home again.
So you're telling me
you're never out of the woods.
If I'm not good on my feet,
don't go.
Don't go.
Don't go.
Okay.
Don't go.
All right. I'm taking your advice, but you say the staff did help.
Yes.
Now we're going to look at some penguins. Tell me about the different penguins
well,
you
this
saw.
is, I think, what everybody loves the most. And these are called gentoo. They're the ones with the orange beaks. They have a white bonnet across their heads. There are different kinds you're going to see, and I know this is going fairly quickly, but the gentoos are the most numerous. And they are great to watch because they act like badly behaved kindergartners. They squawk, they fight, they steal, they play, and the interaction among them.
Are they in the Massachusetts State House?
Wouldn't you think? And they were the ones we saw the most of, and they're just fabulous. And the baby gentoos are so cute. They are gray and white fluff.
Okay.
And we are told do not get closer than 15 meters away from the wildlife. If they come to you, fine, but respect their space. And I had a little gentoo come up to me. We were also told don't rush around like an idiot with your camera. Stay put. They'll come to you, observe, it'll be much more satisfying. So I sat myself on a rock, and this little baby gentoo comes and looks at me, and I just wanted to take him home. It was just precious. And there are some other penguins as well, the chin straps, which you can tell they have a chin strap, and the Adelie penguins, which are the typical tuxedo penguins.
Oh, okay.
And we got very few of those and only on Peterman Island. But those species seemed a lot less squawky and playful than the gentoos.
Now,
much more reserved.
On a little bit of a negative question, I know there are seals usually down in that area.
Plenty.
Do they snack on the penguins?
The leopard seal does.
Okay.
The leopard seal is the predator of the Southern Ocean. And it's got a great big grin, but beware. It's not a cute seal. It's a reptilian seal.
Oh, okay.
I have one picture. It really does look like a snake head. And they're huge, and they lie on the ice, basking in the sun with this great big smile, and they eat warm-blooded animals. They go after the young crab-eater seals and the penguins.
Oh, they'll eat other seals,
yes,
too?
they will. The little ones, the cubs, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
We have different kinds of seals. I think we're about to see a... Yes, that's the leopard seal.
Oh, that's the leopard seal. He
Not
looks very
cute.
nice.
Oh, no. No.
Not so nice.
Not so nice.
Okay.
Not so nice.
All right.
And that is a true seal. There are 5 kinds of true seals. And this is an Antarctic fur seal, and we can talk a little bit about the different kinds of seals.
Do they eat fish?
Krill.
Krill. Oh,
Krill is their main tiny
okay.
little crustaceans.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, that's a chin strap, and I love that.
And what do the penguins eat?
Gentoo. I believe. Good question. I don't know if they eat krill or if they just eat a lot of the algae and whatnot. I'm not sure. That's another. Oh, this is the Weddell seal. It's got a mottled coat, big cat-looking eyes, a cute little face.
Now, who educated you? Was there a guide on the ship?
We had great lectures, Jack.
I was going to say, you
yes,
seem very knowledgeable
especially
in all this.
as you go down the Drake when you were a captive audience and you were on this boat for a solid 2 days, and hopefully not longer without getting off. You have an ornithologist, a geologist, a mammal specialist, a historian. Yes, and you have lectures. These seals are so cute.
They
These
really are.
They walk like caterpillars. They cannot use their hind flippers to walk. They walk like a caterpillar, and they're all blubber. And they're adorable. That, I believe, is a crab-eater seal.
So you're telling me they educated you on the boat.
Yes.
and said to you, these are the different
Right.
seals you're going to see,
Right.
these are the different penguins.
Yep.
Isn't that great? So you really got an education
Yes.
on the wildlife
and this
in this
is not
area.
my typical thing either. I'm a culture vulture. I go to cities, I go to museums. I usually photograph people. So this was my first animal trip, my first nature
I'll tell
trip.
you something, you did a great
And
job with these photos.
I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. I thought maybe the scenery's the same, maybe it'll get boring. Never does. Never does.
So you thoroughly enjoyed this
I
trip.
thoroughly did, and I have to say a big part of that was how lucky we were with weather. Now, we had sunshine most of the time, not all, but most. And we were told that the passage before us was a total hell trip. Their Drake Passage was so horrible it took a full extra day. The doctor had to IV half the boat.
Oh my God.
They had 3 landings. We had 9. They
So
had
the
terrible weather, and we were told on our first day of sunshine, the first day we got there, that it was the first day of sun they had seen in a month.
Oh my. So you're
It's variable.
you're being very open with us that the weather can
Oh, yeah.
affect
It
this
can.
trip.
It can.
But now, how did your fellow travelers, the rest of the people with your group, seem to enjoy these things? Did everyone?
They loved it.
They did.
They did. They
So
loved
everyone had the same general feeling as you that it was a fun trip.
Yep.
Enjoyed
And it's
seeing
a photographer's
everything.
challenge.
Well, so far I've loved the pictures of the seals and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, you continue on with the trip. You continue with the landings. Now we're going to see bath time.
Oh, bath time. These are the little penguins looking at the water like, do I have to? It's cold. And they just would stand there and they'd look and they'd think about it. And they were just precious to watch. Look at him. He's just looking
Does it
down.
ever get warm there, or is this the warmest
The
period?
warmest, I think, on record is about 59 degrees.
Oh, so it does
The
get...
coldest,
I don't want to know.
minus 129 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Antarctica is the coldest, the highest, the driest, and the windiest continent,
Okay.
and the 5th largest continent. So here they are finally deciding it's bath time after all.
So you never get to the tip of Argentina and swim?
In Ushuaia?
Yeah. Oh, would
Well,
that...
now, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
But I would assume if you're only 2 days out and it's that cold...
I think in the summertime, I think it's different.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But you wouldn't recommend to everyone go there planning to
That's
have
not where you swim.
a sunbathing trip?
No.
Okay. All right. You're out on the boat. You're feeling good. It's sunny. You're seeing the penguins. You went to what? Different islands? Did you see people, inhabitants on these islands?
First, let me tell you, the other thing that's so amazing is it's the freshest air you will ever breathe.
Oh, you saw a difference.
You are nowhere.
Look at these glaciers.
is
They're
no-
fantastic.
It's like ice sculpture. You
Really?
would think that those were sculptures.
And are these literally millions of years old?
30 million years the
Wow.
ice started. 30 million years worth of ice. Antarctica holds 90% of the ice of the world and 70% of the fresh water. Isn't that amazing?
So these are mostly fresh water, you're telling me? These glaciers?
Not sure.
Okay.
Not
I
sure.
would assume so,
but
because I
this
don't
is
think
what
salt
I
water
read.
freezes too well.
I think you're probably right. In fact, the very crystal pieces of glacier ice that you get,
Yeah.
and we had seen Jill hold one up where I flashed
Right.
25,000 years old, those are as clear as Steuben glass.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Did the guides talk to you at all about, do they have fears of global warming? Have they found that the glaciers are diminishing more rapidly now than they might have been?
There are a few things they've seen, but just back to your other point first, there are about 75 million penguins in Antarctica.
Okay.
The local human population is 0. Okay? So when you're out on the boat, you're looking at gorgeous scenery, vastness, the cleanest air ever, and this is a kind of a peace and solitude you will never experience anywhere else.
Okay.
Global warming, we all know it's happening, or some people call it global change, if not warming, whatever, but certainly the Earth has gotten a little warmer in places. What they've noticed is that the populations of fur seals and chinstrap penguins have dramatically increased.
Increased,
now,
okay.
These species spend their winters in the water, not so much on the ice, and there's more open water.
Okay.
Okay? Also, they've noticed a lot more plants growing.
All right.
And they've noticed that there has been a really big decrease of the glaciers lining the Beagle Channel. And that's what you go through then when you leave Ushuaia. The glaciers have retreated some. So they are noticing some changes.
All right.
And we wouldn't even want to talk about what would happen if significant amounts of that ice were to really melt.
Well, obviously it
wouldn't be good.
It would be good. Well, I would agree with you. They could probably do a science fiction movie on the glaciers.
Yes, they could. Because I read somewhere that if all the ice were to melt, it would displace half the world's population.
Well, I'm not going to examine that today.
We
with
won't
you.
live that long. So we don't.
Let me talk about this. This looks like it was somebody's house at one time.
This is whalers. The whalers, actually, whaling started at the end of the 19th century. And went straight through the 1960s, believe it or not. But you can see the size of that whale bone with me standing next to it in the picture we just saw.
Now, were those whales that were caught, or were they whales that had been beached
I don't
somehow?
know.
Okay.
I don't know. But one of the islands we walked on had the biggest bones I've ever seen.
Really?
And you will see huts and things or rusty boilers, and these are all remnants of the whaling days.
Okay, but again, very few people living out here.
You've got some researchers and scientists.
Yep.
And I will also say, we mostly cruised the Antarctic Peninsula. We made one landing on the continent.
Okay.
But we're mostly talking, and this is what tourists do, is they cruise the Antarctic Peninsula. When it comes to any kind of population that stays, you're going to be dealing with scientists and researchers, I think.
I gotcha.
And those are our Adelie penguins, the tuxedo penguins. They're just beautiful.
Now, I saw in one of the earlier photos some birds other than penguins, but flying around. Did you see a lot of...
There are lots of different kinds of albatross.
Okay.
And there are many kinds of petrel. The birds tend to be migratory seabirds. And the albatross, the largest kind, I believe the wandering albatross, can have a wingspan of 11 feet.
Wow.
And they glide. They make it look so easy. They're perfected gliding.
Look at these seals.
These are great. Now, these are fur seals, and they jockey for territory. They like rocky coasts, and the males fight with each other, both for territory and their harem. And we watch that. I call that one bad day at the office. This poor guy, we watched him for a while, could not get comfortable. He was rolling this way and that way. He wanted to take a nap, but just couldn't get comfortable. Now, you see a fur seal has those big hind flippers, and they rotate those to walk. They're sort of skinny, and they have a heavy fur coat. And whereas the other true seals move like caterpillars. They can't rotate those hind flippers. Here we have a molting. He's molting and just hanging out. How you categorize these things, look at that. Is that nice?
A great shot.
That is nice.
That is a great shot.
Yeah, and there's that serpentine-looking...
Did they discuss with you any protections that the government has put in place so you don't have trappers coming down to catch the seals for furs and meat, etc.?
Well, that's what had happened for centuries until it finally got to where somebody had to do something. And by 1961, or the late 50s, there were 7 countries that laid claim to various parts of Antarctica. And they all put their claims aside in favor of the Antarctic Treaty, which was signed in 1961. And I read that by the year 2006, 45 countries became signatories of this. So really, Antarctica is a territory for research and good things now, and nobody owns it.
Nobody.
Nobody
And these
owns it.
countries administer it. And did you find they had protection for the animals? Was that part of the discussion that they gave you, that we don't allow trapping, or do they allow?
That wasn't even an issue.
Really?
You would get
Okay.
off on an island and there was simply nothing there but the animals.
Okay.
There's nothing
Did
there.
you see fishing down there? Did you see
No.
fishing
No.
boats?
No.
Really?
No. Oh,
No
no, there's
fishing.
nothing there. Your boat, your ship, I should say, is your hotel and your home. There is nothing else. People would say to me, where do you stay? Do you stay in hotels? There's nothing there. We did see one structure called Port Lockroy, and this was a little building that apparently was started up by the British in 1944 to monitor German shipping movements during the war. And later on it became civilian, and now you have 2 people in there in a tiny little souvenir shop, and for a few bucks you can get an Antarctic stamp in your passport. And that was the only structure we saw, aside from the remnants of the whalers. There's nothing there.
Nothing.
It's lovely.
Well, certainly good to go to if you want to get away from the world. Now, these are more of the penguins.
Yep. And that's the baby gentoo. They flop. When they get tired and they don't feel like doing anything, they flop, or they slide around on their tummies. They're just beautiful to watch. And, you know, look at them. They just skate around on their tummies. And I just had a terrible time trying to weed out the pictures. Now, apparently both sexes will incubate the eggs and feed their young. And they only incubate for about 5 to 6 weeks. And most species of penguins, the babies will leave the nest at, say, 6
look
weeks.
at that little, how did you get so close to take that picture?
Oh, the babies. Well, you have a good telephoto, but we weren't that far away. You're very up close and personal with nature here in this situation. You really are. It's like they're talking to each other.
That was my favorite picture, the one feeding the little baby. I can't believe you got that.
I know.
And did you see this with the seals, too? Did you see their young, the young seals?
Don't remember any baby seals.
Okay.
I don't remember any babies.
Okay.
But we saw many different kinds of seals. We also saw the big elephant seal, which they call the blubber submarine.
Okay.
Huge.
Huge.
In fact, when they were finished in the olden days decimating the fur seal population, they started picking on the elephant seals for their blubber, for oil.
For oil.
Until they almost rendered them extinguished
and
as
now
well.
they've all come back.
Yeah.
And are there walrus there, too?
No.
Oh.
You have to go up north for that.
You said that very clearly and
No
definitively
walrus, no
to
walrus
me.
there.
No walrus.
In fact, I suppose if you go to the Arctic, the first thing they'll tell you is what you're not going to see, and you go to Antarctica and they tell you what you're not going to see. But the penguins are southern hemisphere, and the walrus is north.
I did not know that.
Now you know, yeah.
And no whaling going on? There were no Japanese boats down?
No
Because I
boats.
know they still whale.
We saw nothing.
Nothing.
Jack, when you talk about getting away from it all, this is the ultimate.
All right,
it's
so
special.
you're out in the middle of
Nowhere.
this peninsula in the middle of nowhere. You're heading back. Tell me a little bit about the trip after you come back to the tip of Argentina.
Okay, we flew back to we landed back in Ushuaia and immediately flew to Buenos Aires.
Oh, okay.
And Judy had organized a couple days there for her group and allowed me to be a part of it, which was really nice. I had been to Buenos Aires before. I adore Buenos Aires. It's wonderful. You have that La Boca section, which is the artist's quarter.
Okay.
And the
so
houses
being
are...
an art historian, that must have been
It was
terrific
fun,
for
and
you.
it's interesting. I did not put those pictures in my DVD because I sort of felt that that was a different experience than Antarctica. Yes, it was part of my trip, but it wasn't part of what I did with my picture book or what I do when I lecture to audiences. And I do love to lecture. I love to present my
But I
trips
would
to
say if
people.
one of our viewers was planning this trip,
You can certainly tag it on
I would
with Argentina.
recommend to them
Absolutely.
if you're flying that far
Sure.
down there.
If you haven't seen Buenos Aires. Beautiful museums,
Really?
wonderful food. It's a lovely city.
And what would you say to somebody as far as planning a trip to Buenos Aires? Would you say 2 days is ample, 3 days? What would...
It depends depends on what people like. Some people want to go and shop, and
Yeah.
the shopping's wonderful. Lots of leather.
Okay.
Nice jewels. There plenty of walking streets. You can shop till you drop, as they say. There are museums. This is all, I think, personal.
Okay.
You know, that would be like saying, well, how long would you need to see Paris? And there are people that will see Paris in 2 and 3 days, and I could be there 6 months and still feel that I hadn't seen Paris. So I can't answer a question like that.
Okay.
But certainly a couple days in Buenos Aires.
But it sounds to me like something that a
Sure.
person traveling down there would want to include.
Yeah,
in
and the tango
trip.
show is fantastic too.
Tell me about that.
Oh, I've been twice. I love it. The costumes are stunning. And the
these are what,
music is
nightclubs?
wonderful. Yes. And you can have dinner or choose not to have dinner. The food's never very good at these things,
Okay.
of course. But the show is wonderful.
And this is what, usually a man, is it a group, or I've never been to a tango
well, they
show.
bring out different acts, so to speak.
Okay.
You know, some will have many people dancing at once, some will be 2 people, many different costumes. It's very colorful.
And that, of course, is a traditional Argentinian
Yes,
dance.
and of course, then if you go to Rio, then you get the
The
Plataforma
samba
show.
and the samba.
Yes, so it was nice when I went and did those countries all together for 3 weeks to see the differences in the shows and move from Brazil to Argentina to Chile.
I was
But
going to
that's
say,
another
I
trip.
know
That's another
Brazil,
trip.
I think samba time is usually in February, so you could tie it together, because that's a nice time to be in Rio, certainly.
If you have time and money, you can do anything you like. Anything you like. I also warn people
the
too, though.
answer to great travel, time and money.
Never to do too much at once.
I would agree with you.
Digest it.
I would
and
agree with you.
Yes, if you can do it and go back and take bits at a time and digest what you see, that's my advice. I've always done that.
Yeah. Now, the ship is going to, let's see, our ship, we're going to see a little bit of,
Yeah, it's wonderful to look back at your ship from land or from your Zodiac to see your ship in the landscape. I love that shot. And it's just beautiful. You get a sense of scale too when you put the ship in the surroundings. But I'd love to take pictures of the ship from the outside like this as well as the inside.
does this ship only work down there, or did they tell you
It goes to the Arctic too. This ship had some trouble for a while. It hit an iceberg and had to be reworked for a while. These things do happen.
I love the way you're telling me that story.
Well,
I'm thinking of the Titanic. Tell me.
Things happen. Things happen a lot. Boats do have accidents there, and there have been many passengers that have had to be evacuated
Okay.
or rescued if a ship hits. Yeah, and I know that ship had some problems and had to be repaired. It'll
So
happen. Nothing's
Nothing's
foolproof.
perfect.
You know.
Okay.
That's what
And
those orange life jackets are.
Have there been stories of any of these glaciers all of a sudden crumbling down? Or
They
tell you-
calve, yes, they do, but you know they're not going to bring you too near to something
Oh,
they
they
think
don't.
has a
Okay.
problem. This, by the way, is Deception Island. It's a volcano. It is one of 3 active volcanoes in Antarctica, and we sailed right into it. And there we are hiking up to what they call Neptune's Eye there. What windy, windy, windy. Knock you over windy. And that's also where they had what they call the polar plunge. They encourage us all to then go swimming. And
It
that
sounds like what we do in South Boston.
not my, yeah, maybe, not my style. We had, when we landed the first evening in Antarctica, the most gorgeous evening and the only sunset we got.
Yeah, this
And
is a perfect day.
This is HO, AITCHO, for however that's pronounced. This isn't part of it, but when you see the pictures of the sunset, we never saw that again. It was a gift. We landed and, oh, do you love that? Expanse of just ice flows. We were so lucky with our weather. I can't begin to tell you. And we did sail through 2 channels at one point. I love the way the water mirrors the ice.
Yes. No, these are breathtaking photos.
And I have my picture books at home, and all I can say is you have to be there because you just can't get the sense, that's sailing through, I think, the Le Maire Channel, you can't get the sense of the vastness and the scale when you look at a finite picture.
Where were most of the guests on the boat from? Was there?
Every single country in the world.
Really?
Let me tell you, I had a Dutch roommate for the pre-night in Ushuaia. Every language is spoken on this boat, and many, many nationalities are represented.
That's fascinating.
And many people will make a 6-month thing out of it.
Really?
Yeah. If you get Australians, they never go anywhere for less than a few months, and they'll just put that into their round-the-world trip or wherever they're going, and that always amazes me because these trips are costly. And but boy, that's one thing about sailing on a cruise like this. An adventure like this is you will meet people from all over the world.
So you would say they came, you had people from Japan, China, everywhere?
Everywhere.
And how did that work out as far as, was there entertainment on the boat at night or anything?
No.
Okay.
But you sit with whomever you like for dinner. You make friends. There might be a lecture after dinner. Maybe they'll show a movie. I'm a dud. I go to sleep. I get tired. I get tired. And I think that it's
Amy,
so...
just because your mother's watching, I know you're telling us that.
No,
if I get a hold of Judy,
tired.
will she tell me you were out dancing the
She
tango
will
at night?
absolutely not tell you that.
Okay.
I go to bed early. And there were probably movies I would have liked, but no, not me.
Okay, all right.
A good night's sleep is a valuable thing.
Now, when you were in Buenos Aires, were you asleep early
Well,
too?
we had, I believe, one night in Buenos Aires, and after the tango, of course, it's midnight already. So that for me is a late night.
That's
Yeah.
a big night out.
Yeah, big night out.
Okay. This is, of course, more glacier pictures.
Oh, look at that. I can't get over when I look at them how much I got out of this trip. And so much of why I like to give lectures to various audiences is so I can relive it all again. I think if there's anyone who gets their money's worth out of their travel, it's got to be me. And there, I believe, is Judy walking along that windswept beach in Deception Island.
Okay.
And this was that stunning first night with the sunset. I think we're going to see some more of that. This is actually,
Wow.
this is Cape
And
Bernard.
That is
Oh,
solid
yeah.
ice.
Oh, yeah. This is, look at, that's the Zodiac you see, that little dot on the right corner. That's how big.
Wow.
Look at that picture.
Now,
and
I'm not
look at
seeing-
the seal owns the world there. Look at him.
On the glaciers, I'm not seeing any of the seals or penguins. Am I right or wrong?
No, you don't see You'll see them on ice floes and blocks
Okay.
of ice like we saw Mr. Leopard seal a while back. But see the colonies of penguins all over. And every land is different. Rocky, snowy, every landscape is different. Once I put my foot down and I ended up in snow to my hip. You've got to watch where you step. And some are harder than others. This was a spectacular place. We were way up high with such a view. Look at that ice. There's nothing like this in the world.
Oh
I
my,
can't
look at this.
imagine
Yes.
anything like this in the world.
And this is what, like a cave or something?
It was. And
Wow.
when here we were just zodiacking around, and that's my favorite shot. That is my favorite. I was trying to decide if I should put that into a juried photography show this winter, but I think I'm going to do something else. That's my humpback whale.
Okay.
My one and only shot of a humpback whale. Whales are impossible. They're just impossible. But that was that stunning sunset, and just precious.
Now, I'm assuming that the ship had tour guides with you wherever you went.
Well, your experts came out with you. The same men that lecture you on the boat will guide you off the boat. You have Zodiac drivers driving the Zodiacs, and then the experts will divvy you up on land and talk to you. But look how beautiful. I still can't get over it.
It is.
And if it wasn't such a perfect trip, I would go back someday, but you can't redo something that was so special. I just loved it. And this is coming back, just pulling back in, seeing Ushuaia again, and it's a lovely town down there.
It does. It looks very pretty.
Fun to shop in, fun to have coffee. I bought my souvenirs from Antarctica in Ushuaia when I got back. I bought my T-shirts.
Quite honestly, it looks almost like, a Martha's Vineyard or
that part of it does,
Nantucket kind of photo.
Yeah. Mountains are a little higher, I have to say.
Well, there we are.
And that's my buddy Pat, my mother's friend who, and this is the way I end.
Well, the photos have left me breathless, Amy. And
I can't believe I took them.
No, they're really quite exceptional, I have to tell you. So when you came back, you went back through Buenos Aires. Then did you go back home to Longmeadow from there, or did you have additional stops?
No, I went home, and I had to go home because February vacation was right around the doorstep, and I had to be home for my kids coming home from school.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still have vacations to deal with, so
All
I am
right.
on a timer, believe me.
I believe you. Now, what are you doing as of late with the Mount Holyoke Art Museum?
I no longer work there.
okay.
I've not been working now for 4+ years.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've been
So you have more
focusing
time
on
to
my
travel.
own projects. I travel. I'm going to have my first photography exhibit at the Agawam Library in April. So I'm
Terrific.
pleased. I'm going to show.
I hope you'll feature that seal who had his mouth wide
No,
open.
this is going to be favorite faces of the Silk Road.
Okay, so
I went through 5 of the 6 stands.
Yeah.
Not Afghanistan, but all the others. And my favorite thing are people's faces. I love to photograph people, and I've gotten fairly good at it. So
Really?
that's what I decided to do for this exhibit. And I lecture, and I travel.
So with this exhibit, you're going to feature what? Turkestan or?
Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Western China. We went to Urumqi. So you have many different kinds of faces, and
Well,
it was
you know,
all
you're-
about bazaars and markets, and that's where you
Really?
find
That's
the
what you
people.
found?
The ladies holding their cabbages and showing you their carrots, and Russian-looking, Chinese-looking, and lots of wonderful men's faces.
Well, I'll tell you something.
I like my faces.
I know
I'm proud
we're
of
going
my
to get a
faces.
call from one of our viewers and say, Jack, we want to see those countries. So do you have lots of photos of those
I've
countries?
got lots of everything, and I'll be off to Madagascar November 1st.
Tell me about that trip.
Well, haven't been to Madagascar, and I hear
Okay.
that's the 3rd largest island in the world. If I've seen orangutans
Are you
in
gonna
Borneo,
fly-
it's now time to see lemurs.
Are you going to fly into Johannesburg? Is that
No,
how
no,
you
no,
get
no.
there? No.
This is very interesting. I am flying Air France through Paris directly to the capital city of Madagascar,
Oh, wow.
which they refer to as Tani.
Okay.
Because the full name, and I don't know how to pronounce this, is Antananarivo. Antananarivo? It's a very long name.
And is this
so
a
they call
group
it Tanny.
Is this a group you're going with?
Yes, it is a British adventure company I travel with quite a lot.
Okay.
And I have a good friend from Glasgow who's been traveling with me the last few years, and she and I will meet up.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
That
we
should
become.
be very
I have
exciting.
most of my friends, I
Madagascar
believe, are
has
in the UK.
Madagascar has some very, very beautiful foliage you'll be looking at.
It's got its own ecosystem.
Yes, it does have its own ecosystem. When I'm not doing travels with Jack, I'm in the food business, and we happen to import vanilla beans from Madagascar. So when you're there, you'll be sure to try some of the wonderful Madagascan
Why not?
bourbon vanilla beans.
Sounds
Bourbon
good.
vanilla is also grown in Mexico. But in Madagascar, that's a big export for them. And they may discuss the politics with you. They've had some very difficult political times in the last few years with a couple of different presidents, both claiming jurisdiction over the population.
Well,
so
hopefully they won't be fighting while I'm there.
you never know.
You never know. And I have been in
I
situations.
booked a trip to Tripoli once, and
I went.
oh, you did go
We
to
can
Tripoli?
talk about Libya, sure. I was lucky to have gone to Syria and to Libya when I did. I really
Yes.
thank my lucky stars for that.
Yeah,
because
Syria is not.
not now, but
not now.
people were so friendly. We had a fabulous. That was my first adventure trip, and I went off with a sleeping bag.
Okay.
I slept in an amphitheater on the amphitheater floor.
One of
in
the
a sleeping
Roman
bag.
amphitheaters?
Yeah. I slept on top of Mount Nebo. It was the most amazing trip, and that turned me on to travel like this.
Oh, well, this Antarctica, I must tell you, the shots are breathtaking. It's something I would definitely want to do. So
Call me.
I'll have to call. Now, tell me a little bit about Great Dane Travel. What kind of things do you put together for people with that? Do you plan trips for groups? Do you?
I would love to do groups. That I haven't done, and I would really love to. And in fact, I wouldn't even mind leading groups if I had people that were interested. I think that would be great. But I do exotic travel. I usually put people with groups or design their own if they want.
Okay.
And I have companies that I use who are experts in various parts of the world.
So, for example...
And I always share with my clients my experiences and things that I like, things they should do. I have clients that love to travel. They're my age. And they wanted to go to India. And I put together the most incredible trip for them, and I said, but you know, you've got to do something, and I wouldn't recommend this to anybody but you. You must go to the 8th wonder of the world. And she said, well, what's that? And I said, the rat temple. They worship rats. They were thrilled. I mean,
they did go.
That's a whole other, yes, they worship rats as ancestors who have been incarnated into rats but will become humans again.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I have to tell you...
It's one of a kind.
The audience will enjoy this. You can see from the TV I'm not a lightweight. But I was in India, and we were going up to the Red Fort.
Yes.
And for those of you who are...
In Delhi.
A little bit older... no, this was in Agar, I believe.
Agra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who were a little older, you'll remember Jackie Kennedy went up on this elephant.
Oh, Jaipur.
Was it in Jaipur?
Yeah, if you
up
rode the
hill,
elephant, yeah.
And
that's in Jaipur.
They usually put 3 or 4 people
in a box on top.
In a box on top of the elephant.
Well, I'm going to tell you something about that.
Wait, let me tell them the story, Amy.
Yeah.
Jack climbs up the ladder. I'm ready to get on the elephant with 2 or 3 other people. They put me in the box. They give the elephant a slap. They send me up alone. They didn't want the elephant to suffer, so they just had him carry me alone.
Oh, so that's unfair completely. On my very first trip to India, I did that same ride, but luckily I was not alone. And I have a lovely picture of me sitting on the elephant's head, which was so high it was scary, the expression on my face. But this is not promoted anymore. Apparently, they wouldn't let us do it when I was in India a couple of years ago. They don't treat the elephants properly. They're not humane to them.
Oh, really? I thought they treated them pretty well.
No,
in fact,
no, we were told do not do this.
Really?
Lots of things have changed. If you remember in the olden days, you could go to Morocco and see snake charmers. Or in India, the same. No more.
Yeah.
The world is different now. So we
well,
did not
Morocco,
ride those elephants.
You know, you talk about
around.
wonderful bazaars.
Yes.
Morocco has fabulous marketplaces.
Very colorful.
Very colorful people, great food. On Antarctica, did you get an opportunity to determine, I know the ship had one kind of cuisine, but when you were in Ushuaia, did you get any sense of the cuisine or the food there?
Well, you mentioned before we started the wonderful Argentinian steaks.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, there is nothing like them. And they're cheap. I once had a petite-sized steak. It must have been this big and this thick. And I said, boy, and throw in some sautéed spinach with that, and you've got an Atkins diet, right?
Well, you don't have weight issues.
You wish. Oh, well, the meats and things in South America are special.
Terrific.
Yeah.
I also know, as a simple aside, the Argentinian beef has the lowest propensity to the disease. What is the cow disease that the BT? No, BT, whatever.
I don't know.
That the brain disease that some cows get.
Mad cow.
Mad cow. And the Argentinian beef has the highest record of no mad cow disease in the world. So,
it's fantastic.
They are known for their fantastic beef.
Oh,
there.
they certainly
So
are.
when you were there, you did have some steaks and things.
I did on this trip, but boy, the 3 weeks I spent between Brazil, Chile, and Argentina, I think I had steak every night.
Wow. So you tell the guests
the food is fantastic.
A steak lover's dream.
Oh yeah, it's a steak lover's dream.
Yeah. And how long was the flight down there from Miami to the tip to Ushuaia?
Overnight.
So you'd
It's a
say
while.
8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
It's a fairly long trip.
At least, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's no big deal.
And this cruise you booked, Judy booked it. Where did
She booked it for her group. I booked mine separately and sort of
And
piggybacked
where did she
with
locate?
her.
How did she find this particular ship?
I never asked her that.
Oh, okay.
I was way late in the game. I mean, it was almost time to shove off, and I was lucky there was a space for me on the boat, and I didn't ask questions. All I said was, "Can you adopt me?" And she said, "Absolutely."
And Madagascar, you're going to be there how many weeks? Or a week?
2 weeks. I'll be
2
there a full
weeks.
2
Wow.
weeks, yes. Yes.
And you're planning what, rent-a-car, or you have a
No,
tour guide?
we will have a guide. We usually drive around in vans. I do
Okay.
not know how many people will be on this trip. They usually don't take more than 12 to 16 people.
Okay.
I don't know. I will find out when I get there.
Well, that should be interesting.
I hope
because,
so.
I think there's a very strong French culture there.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you may find the
Which is good
shopping-
for me.
Yeah. Well, you may find the food and the shopping very interesting.
Shopping, Jack, there is no room in my house to put a toothpick anymore. But I have something I have to tell you and confess. I bring things from all over the world. And all of a sudden, we had moths in my house that just weren't going away. I'd clean them up, they'd be dead on the floor, I'd clean them up. They weren't going away. Finally called in the exterminator, and they were clothes moths, not kitchen moths, clothes moths. Great. And it must have been something I brought back from somewhere that wasn't treated.
So you're a little
You
more
don't know what
careful
I've
now.
gone through. My husband spent, I don't know how many thousands of dollars. We're still being watched, and I am going to be beyond careful. I told him from now on, only precious gems.
On that note, Amy Dane, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I really do want to have you come back to Travels with Jack. Again, to our viewers, if you've got some kind of trip, please share it with us. Those who want to connect Amy, she is a resident out in Longmeadow, Mass. And Great Dane Travel is her boutique travel agency. And I'm looking forward to her joining us again. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks.